All right, looks like the microphone is going to work this time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my Week 17 show. Once again, taking place on a Wednesday morning instead of Tuesday evening because Christmas be Christmas. So, it happens. In any case, we are here for the penultimate week of the NFL regular season. And we got 2 weeks left until the regular season is over, and then we're into playoff time, baby. And it is the absolute best time to be a football fan is when the NFL playoffs roll around. Super wild card weekend, just a few short weeks away. I hope everybody had a fantastic, fantastic Christmas and holiday season. We're, of course, still heading towards New Year. It's about to be 2024. I think 2024 is going to be a hell of a year. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this because I know it's nice and early. I hope you got your coffee with you. I know I certainly have mine. And let us go ahead and get into the show this week. So we're going to pop open you. We're going to do the thing. We're going to skip the thing first. And then we're going to do okay, cool. It already looks like it's set up there, which is very nice. It's recording on the proper microphone, which is always helpful. All right. I've also got another little side window up here, which is the multitude of clinching scenarios that exist in the NFL this week. There are a lot of them. I will try to make reference to them, but I can't explain them better than the Athletic did. So we're just going to be using the Athletics breakdown of those. All right. We had somebody in the chat. We got Andrew in the chat. I hope you did, Justin, and I hope I've got my coffee and your t-shirt. Excellent. Good job. All right. In 5, 4, 3. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to week 17 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2023 NFL season. A happy belated Christmas and a happy new year to everybody who's going to be watching this live stream and the VOD and everything. I hope you had an incredible holiday season. I hope you got everything that you wanted for Christmas. I'm currently sporting one of my favorite Christmas presents from a local coffee shop here in town, Fancy Pants Cafe. Shout out to Caitlin. You are the best. So, week 16, it's in the books. We had some more clinches in terms of playoff scenarios, some teams clinching spots in the postseason. There are still a ton of playoff clinching scenarios that are available to us here in week 17. But in week 16, I went 9-7 straight up for the second straight week, 149-91 on the season. And against the spread, also went 9-7. That has me 130, 105, and 5 against the spread this year. One of my stronger against the spread seasons, to be perfectly honest. Look, everybody pretends like picking the spread is easy. It's not. Vegas makes sure that it's not. So to go 130, 105, and 5 to this point in the year, I like it. And hey, we were even money on the totals, 8-8 on the totals, 114, 124, and 2 on the season. Primetime games, obviously, we had a trio of Monday Night Football games last week. On Thursday Night Football, the Rams beat the Saints 30-22. I did get that one straight up, but did miss both of the betting plays. I told you to stay under, and I did take the points with the Saints as a credit to their defense. Didn't work out that way. The Packers hold on to beat the Carolina Panthers by 3 points, 33-30. I did get the over there and did get the win straight up, but I did have the Packers, I think, -4.5, so that didn't cover. And then we had some losses, but we had some wins here down the stretch. Denver drops a game they absolutely cannot afford to drop to the New England Patriots 26-23. I got swept on that Sunday Night Football pick. I also got swept on the first Monday game, Kansas City losing 20-14 to the Las Vegas Raiders. Actually, no, sorry. I did get the spread play in that because I did take the Raiders +10. So I did get that. Philly beats the Giants 33-25, straight up win against the spread win as well, as I took the, I think, 11.5 points with the Giants, but I did miss the total. And I did sweep the Ravens and 49ers. I had the Ravens winning that game outright. They did so 33-19. So that was a clean sweep on the final game of last week. And I did kind of hit a hot streak down the stretch last week, which wound up getting me to my 9-7, 9-7, and 8-8. Taking a peek at the Bridgewater's finest straight up pick'em pool for season 12 of this show, I remain in 16th place out of 52, 1,270 out of 1,930 possible confidence points. It's just under 66% on the season, and I brought in 61% of available points in week 16, 83 of 136. Shout out to our week 16 winner, Moby Polito, who is a name I have shouted out on this show a lot over the years, a long time participant in this pick'em pool. 11-5 last week was Moby Polito, bringing in 98 of 136 points, just over 72%. Marvin Pickset remains the overall leader in the pick'em pool, 153 and 87, so still 4 picks better than me on the season. 1,356 confidence points. It's just over 70%. They are setting the pace and on a championship clip. Wonderful, wonderful coffee. So, taking a peek now into Fantasy Corner, which is, of course, presented to you by the Dynasty Trade Calculator. And if you go to the description of this live stream or the VOD, you're going to find my affiliate link to the Dynasty Trade Calculator for as little as a cup of coffee. You can gain access to one of the absolute best resources available to you online for Dynasty, Keeper, and long-term fantasy football. You're talking player rankings, trade evaluations, podcasts with a ton of great experts. Does not matter what the configuration of your league is. The Dynasty Trade Calculator has got you covered with your rankings, your trade evaluations to make your team better, to get you closer to Dynasty championships. And a Dynasty championship is exactly what your boy's going to be playing for this week. I did pick up the win against Cat in the Ante & Co. Dynasty League. That moves me into the finals in Ante & Co., where I take on Tensa, the number 1 overall seed. It's a 1 versus 2 matchup. It's the two teams that a little biased, but personally, I believe most deserve to be there. It's a 1 versus 2, me and Tensa. I'm projected to lose that matchup right now, but I think it's going to be nice and close. I do have to make up for the loss of TJ Hawkinson, which we'll have to see how that goes. In the Professionals Dynasty, I did beat Gavin in one of the consolation matchups. That moves me into another consolation matchup against Half Moon. I'm not sure exactly what place that's for. It might be the 5th place game, I guess. Something like that. I am playing for 3 championships, 3 fantasy football championships this year, as well as 2 third-place games. I went 5-3 overall last week. I feel like it's a strong season in fantasy. I'd like to be playing, obviously, for more championships. Every year you want to go 8 for 8. But look, the fact that I'm playing for 3 championships, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth on that one. And I'll take this opportunity to remind you that if you go to the description of this live stream, of the VOD, of the podcast episode, however you gain access to this show, you are going to find all my results from last week, all my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 17 in the NFL. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's finest straight up pick'em pool, which, reminder, does run all through the playoffs. So if you're in that pool, don't stop at the end of the regular season. It runs all through the postseason as well. You're also going to find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page. All right, so we're going to close that window so we don't have to worry about it anymore. And we're going to make sure that our clinching scenario window is still open, which in fact it is. Wonderful. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. Almost. Very close. Very close. So let's see. Andrew in the chat says maybe Fancy Pants could be your new sponsor. Well, it's tough because they don't really have an online presence, right? Like Nerd Tees was like a hand in a custom made glove because anybody could go online and order Nerd Tees. Literally anybody. Doesn't matter where you lived. With Fancy Pants, it's local. It's very much local to me. So for people that are in my town who I know follow my channel, which I know there are several, it's great for them. It's not really great for anybody else unless Fancy Pants starts, expanding. And look, if they expand to have a decent sized online presence, then absolutely, I will 100% be approaching them. All right. Like I said, we have a lot of playoff clinching scenarios on deck this week. We're looking at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think no fewer than 11 teams that have the ability to clinch something this week, whether it's a playoff berth, clinch a division, clinch the number one overall seed. There's all kinds of stuff at play this week, and we will talk about all that stuff as we preview the games in week 17. And we are going to kick off and get started with our game on Thursday Night Football, the New York Jets traveling to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are the first team that we will talk about here who have a playoff clinching scenario here. They're not in as of yet. However, with this game against the Jets, super important for them. Look, the Jets are already eliminated. They're playing for pride at this point, which obviously does matter. But if for Cleveland, who are 10-5 right now, again, they don't seem like they should be 10-5, but they're 10-5. The Browns clinch a playoff berth with a win or a tie, or a loss or a tie from either Pittsburgh or Jacksonville or Houston and Indianapolis. They would need Houston and Indianapolis to both lose or tie, or they also clinch a playoff spot if Buffalo loses outright. So there's 5 different scenarios there just with the Cleveland Browns where they can clinch a playoff spot this week. It's all based on other teams losing or tying. I understand that. That's the name of the game. That's the way this goes. But the Browns have a number of opportunities here, whether they win or not. But it's in their own hands. It's in their own destiny here. They can win. They can punch their ticket to the postseason. I think that's exactly what they're going to do. Look, the Jets don't have anything to play for right now. The offense is not great. The defense, the numbers look good, but they're giving up more points than they should be giving up for the yardage that they're giving up. I just feel like the Cleveland Browns are the better football team here. They have everything to play for. The Jets don't really gain much of anything by playing spoilers in this role. So let's take the Browns at home to get the win over the New York Jets. And I actually like them pretty heavily here, as does Vegas. Vegas is laying -7 here against the spread on the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. The Jets have only covered once against the spread in their last 5 games, so they're not exactly on a roll here against the spread, whereas Cleveland at least has covered 3 of those 5 numbers. So let's lay the -7 here on the Browns. Total in the game set at 34.5. Both of these teams trending over at least recently. And again, I don't super trust the Jets on the defensive side of the ball right now, at least from an efficiency perspective. So let's take the over in this one, over 34.5 points in New York and Cleveland. Let's go like 28-10 in favor of the Browns, expecting a big game from David Njoku. He has sneakily had himself an excellent season. So big game from Njoku, big game for the Cleveland Browns, 28-10. They get the win and punch their ticket to the AFC playoffs. From Thursday night, we'll go to Saturday night. The Dallas Cowboys at home playing host to the Detroit Lions. This could very easily be a preview of a divisional round matchup. Like if the Cowboys wind up winning the division, Detroit has already won the NFC North. So this could very easily be a matchup that you see again in the playoffs. Or if Dallas winds up being a wild card team, I think they'd probably wind up playing Tampa Bay based on record. So look, this is still just a matchup you could see at some point in the postseason. Detroit's coming into this game on the tail end of back-to-back road games, which obviously does not bode super well for them. As a matter of fact, the teams that are on the tail end of back-to-back road games have now just hit their 40th straight up loss of the season. They've never struggled to this degree. And like those teams on the tail end of back-to-backs, it's been a thing for years. It's really been a thing this year. Look, both of these teams, I think, are relatively similar. The offenses are both playing really well. The defenses, I think, are both kind of moderate. Like I talked about it last week. I had a hot take basically about all of these NFC contenders and how basically I thought they were interchangeable. Like I don't think there's a ton of difference between a lot of these teams. And this is exactly the case here. I think Detroit has been a little bit more efficient on the offensive side of the ball over the last month or so, and a little more efficient defensively. Just a little bit more efficient on the defensive side. And I'm going to lean on that. Look, part of this is the number. Dallas is coming into this game laying -6. I understand they're in Jerry world, and I understand that's a different ball game. But 6 points against a team that you're basically the same as far as I'm concerned. I think you could even make the argument that in some positions, the Lions have more talent. Not across, not top to bottom, but in some positions, I feel like the Lions have more talent. I'm going to take the Lions here in the upset. That line is really fishy to me. I don't love it. Detroit has covered more spreads in the last 5 than the Cowboys have. Let's take Detroit to win this game outright. Go into Dallas, get a big season defining win, heading into the playoffs with a ton of momentum. Lions beat the Cowboys, and I think that essentially locks up the division for Philadelphia if that were the case. So I like the Lions to go into Dallas outright and get that win. So obviously, where Dallas is laying -6, I'm going to be happily taking the +6 points on the Detroit Lions. Total in this game is 53.5 points. I feel like this is probably an over given these two offenses. And again, neither one of these defenses is sort of lighting the league on fire right now. Let's take the over here. Over 53.5 points in Detroit, Dallas. Let's go like 31-27. Give me some fireworks in Jerry World. 31-27 for the Detroit Lions. Lions win. Lions cover the +6 and give me the over. Now, this week is really weird. We have no more Monday Night Football games. So rest in power, Monday Night Football for this season anyway. So we're going to go through 5 of the early window games. We're going to then do the Seattle and Pittsburgh game because that I think is in the 4:05 window. We're then going to do the other 5 1 p.m. window games. Then we're going to do the 2 America's Game of the Week, which is Denver, Los Angeles, and Kansas City, Cincinnati. And then we'll do the Sunday night football game, which is Green Bay, Minnesota. So all you need to know right now is we're going to do 5 quick ones. Sadite? Sadite. Let's start in Buffalo. The Bills playing host to the New England Patriots. Obviously, battle of the AFC East. Patriots coming into this game on the tail end of back-to-back road games. Obviously, eliminated from playoff contention at this point. The Bills have one of the more complex playoff clinching, in fact, the most complex playoff clinching scenario this week. They can clinch a playoff berth this week, but there are no fewer than, let's see, 10, 12, 14 different scenarios under which the Buffalo Bills can clinch a playoff spot this week. I'm going to read them super quickly. So, look, this is also why you need to be subscribed to The Athletic. Like they're not paying me to say this, but they break this down before the NFL actually officially releases it. So, I think that's super cool. Buffalo clinches a playoff spot with a win, a Pittsburgh loss or tie, and a Cincinnati loss or tie, or a win, a Pittsburgh loss or tie, and a Jacksonville loss or tie, or a win, a Pittsburgh loss or tie, a Houston loss or tie, and an Indianapolis loss or tie. They also clinch with a win, a Cincinnati loss or tie, and a Jacksonville loss or tie, or a win, a Cincinnati loss or tie, and a Houston and Indianapolis loss or tie. They also clinch with a tie, a Steelers loss, a Bengals loss, and a Jags loss, or a tie, a lot. Maybe we'll just stop this. There are literally 14 different scenarios under which the Bills can clinch a playoff spot this week. Do I think it necessarily happens? It doesn't necessarily. Like, I like them to win this game because like the Patriots could definitely have something to play for here with pride and playing spoiler and whatever because it's a division opponent. I'm definitely leaving that door open. But in saying that, I just think the Bills are a better team. Like the Bills are a better team. They're playing better right now. They're playing better now than they've been playing at for like long stretches of this season. So I do think they get the win here. Whether or not they clinch a playoff spot, not 100% sure as of yet. We'll kind of look at that Maybe we'll look at that after we're done all of our picks and sort of see how we think this plays out. But I will take the Bills to get the win this week at home against the Patriots. On the line, they're laying 11 and a half points, and I am not. It's a division opponent. Like the Patriots have one of the best defenses still in the NFL, despite the fact that they found very little success with it this year. But that defensive unit is very, very good, and they're still very, very good. So to be taking 11 and a half points against the division opponent, I have to go ahead and take that as well. So give me the plus 11 and a half on the Patriots, who have at the very least covered 3 of 5 spreads in their last 5 games. Total in the game set at 40 and a half. I feel like I got to go under on this one. Both of these defenses playing fairly well right now. So even though that's a low number, give me the under and give me like a 24-14, something like that. I still think the Bills win this game comfortably. The backdoor cover is definitely a possibility here. I say Patriots final scoring play. Backdoor covers that 11 and a half number, but it still stays under the point total. Right. Atlanta Falcons traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. Sneakily here, this is a battle of 2 of the best statistical defenses over the last month. Like Atlanta is top 5 in the NFL across the board in what I measure. Defensive efficiency, yards per game, points per game against. They're top 5 across the board. And Chicago is top 5 in efficiency, top 5 in points against per game, top 10 in yards against per game. Both of these defenses playing their best football at exactly the right time. Now, statistically speaking, neither one of these teams are technically eliminated yet. The Bears are still technically mathematically alive. They need a monumental amount of things to happen, but mathematically, they're still technically alive. The Falcons are definitely still alive because that division is still up for grabs. So this should be playoff atmosphere across the board. Where I think this game is going to come down to is in a game of defense, one of these teams, one of their top offensive stars is not going to be out there. And that's DJ Moore at wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. He's got a high ankle sprain that almost certainly ends his season. Why would you roll him out there? He's one of your best offensive players just to make that injury worse, potentially tear an Achilles. It just doesn't make any sense. So I would assume that DJ Moore is probably done for the year. And I think Cole Kmet is banged up as well. There's some dubiousness about whether or not he plays. So in that situation where one team has, 2 of their best offensive weapons, certainly less than 100% likely not playing, I think I got to take the upset here. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons on the road in Chicago to get the win over the Bears. It's an upset because the Bears are laying -3 against the spread. And look, they've covered 4 of their last 5 against the spread. So the Bears are on a roll here. But I think that injury to DJ Moore and to Cole Kmet, I do believe that's going to loom large in this game. I think they're going to struggle to move the ball and put up points. So give me the Falcons in the upset and give me the +3 on Atlanta. Total in this game set at 37 and a half. And this is what I mean. These two teams have only hit 2 overs combined in their last 5 games, respectively. So they're like 2-8 to the over in those games. So give me the under in this, even though the number is only 37 and a half. Give me like a 17-10 in favor of the Falcons. Falcons win. Falcons cover the +3 and give me the under on the points. Gotta love that coffee. It's so good. The Las Vegas Raiders on the road in Indianapolis to take on the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Raiders are coming into this, of course, on the short week, having played on Monday night, that spectacular win against the Kansas City Chiefs, where they just ran the ball straight down their throats. Just an incredible win for them. And just something to kind of a feather in the cap, right? As you head into an off season that there's likely to be some change there. I think that team requires quite a bit of change. I think they have the right coach. I will put it that way. I think they've got the right person holding the reins now. Now it's just a matter of swapping out some of those reindeer. You know what I mean? Like let's get some more horses up front. But look, they earned that win. They definitely earned that win. They beat a superior football team, and they deserve credit for that. They're also now on the tail end of back-to-back road games, having played in Kansas City last week. So this is another one of those interesting matchups where both of these teams are still technically mathematically alive. Like neither one of them have been eliminated yet. Obviously, with Indianapolis, there's a lot still up in the air with that division. It's basically those three horses, like right there for that division, and it's still anybody's ball game because Jacksonville is like completely um, in a tailspin. So, like, that division is still there for Indianapolis. They have every reason to want and need to win this football game. However, I don't love what I've been seeing from the Colts over the last couple of weeks. Like, defensively, they've been struggling for most of the season, but I find that the offense isn't quite where we would want it to be either. The yardage has come down a lot, the points have come down a lot. I don't know whether Michael Pittman is going to be playing in this game. And boy, what we saw last week from Zamir White, where basically just hand the ball to Zamir White and just let him run it down their throats. I feel like that's going to be a repeat. Like don't mess with that because very clearly it worked. I like the Raiders in this matchup. I like the Raiders in the upset here. I like them to go to Indianapolis, beat the Colts late. That is a big loss for the Colts if that happens. And it kind of keeps things interesting for the Raiders' very slim playoff hopes. But look, they're fighting for their lives here. Well, both of these teams are basically, but I like the Raiders in this matchup. Give me Las Vegas in the upset in Indianapolis. So on the line, the Colts are laying -3. They absolutely deserve to be. Give me the +3 on the Vegas Raiders. Total in this game set at 43.5 points. I do see this going over, I think, even though, like, look, the Raiders deserve a lot of credit for how they've been playing on the defensive side of the ball lately. That could ultimately be what winds up getting them this win. But I do think this number climbs over by a couple of points. Give me over 43.5 in Vegas, Indianapolis. Let's go 27-20 in favor of the Raiders. Raiders win, Raiders cover over on the points. Let's go to New York now, where the New York Giants are going to play host to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams have the benefit of the long week here from last week, playing on Thursday. The Giants are on the short week, having just played on Monday night. So, a real big rest disparity in this game, which is not going to serve the Giants well at all. Giants obviously already mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. The Rams, we run into another clinching scenario here for the Los Angeles Rams. They clinch a playoff berth with a win and a Seattle loss, or a win and a tie in Green Bay, Minnesota. So if Green Bay, Minnesota ends in a tie and the Rams win, the Rams have booked their ticket to the postseason. But really, all they need to focus on to steal a line from the Raiders culture is just win, baby. The Rams win. They put themselves in a great position to snag a playoff spot coming out of this week. That's exactly what I think they're going to do. The Giants are not showing me anything special on the offensive side of the ball. Andrew just put it in the chat. The Tommy DeVito era basically over before it began. So we're going to go ahead and pin that message for you, Andrew. That's the comment of the week in the clubhouse at this point. Yes. And honestly, like, as far as I'm concerned, there never really was a Tommy DeVito era. Everybody got caught up in the gabagool of it all. And I understand that. Like, I'm not going to hold it against the guy for having a personality, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it right from the jump. Turns out I'm probably right. So let's go with the Rams here on the road in New York to beat the Giants. On the line, the Rams are laying 6.5 points as a road favorite. Usually I don't love that many points on a road favorite, but the Rams have covered 5 straight against the spread. They are cooking right now, certainly on the offensive side of the ball. Let's go ahead and lay those 6.5 points here on the Rams. Rams cover -6.5. Total in the game set at 42 points. I like the over in this one because, again, the Rams are just cooking on the offensive side. They might get to 30 in this game, but I think they certainly get into the high 20s. So let's go over 42 points in Los Angeles, New York. Let's go 28-17 in favor of the Rams. Rams win. Rams cover -6.5 and give me the over on the 42-point total. And the last one we'll look at before we get to that Pittsburgh and Seattle game is the Arizona Cardinals on the road in Philadelphia, taking on an Eagles squad that did pick up the win last week, but they are, of course, on the short week, having just played on Monday night. The Cardinals mathematically eliminated from the playoffs on the tail end of back-to-back road games. Now we look at the Eagles. The Eagles also have a clinching scenario that they're looking at this week. The Eagles clinch the NFC East division title with a win and a Dallas loss, or a tie and a Dallas loss. So if they win or tie Philadelphia and Dallas loses, the Eagles have clinched the NFC East. So we've already completed part of that because we had the Dallas Cowboys lose earlier on in the picks. I don't see any reason. Like, I understand that Philadelphia has been struggling lately and like their efficiency's in the toilet on both sides of the ball, but I don't see any reason how this Arizona Cardinals team, especially on the defensive side, I don't see any reason that they come up and win this football game, especially in Philadelphia, notoriously difficult place to play. Let's take the Eagles here straight up to beat the Arizona Cardinals. Now, on the line, this is real interesting. The Eagles are laying minus 10.5 against the spread. So our second huge number of the week. And I totally understand why this number is as big as it is. It's as big as it is on track record for both teams, to be honest, where the game's being played, whatever. Like if this game was in Arizona, Philly's number would look a lot more like Los Angeles's, right? Like it would be like a 7, a 6.5, a 7.5, something like that. But because it's in Philly, it's up over double digits. I'm going to take the 10.5 points on Arizona. And the reason for that is, yes, we all know the Eagles have been struggling lately. The Eagles have not covered a spread in their last 5 games. At the very least, Arizona, with how average and not great they've been playing this year, have covered a couple of spreads lately. Until I see the Eagles do that again, it's just, I can't lay double digits on them. I just can't do it. Is that the smart play? Probably against the Cardinals defense that looks like that. It's probably the smart play because the Eagles could put up 40, but I also don't trust their defense right now. So give me the plus 10.5 on the Arizona Cardinals. Total in this game is set at 48. These two teams have been kind of middling with the point scoring lately. Two not very good defenses, but offensively, neither team is really cooking with gas. I think I'm going to have to take the under in this one. It's such a big number in the context of this season. I think we got to go ahead and grab the under on this one. Under 48 points in Arizona, Philadelphia. Let's go like 26-16. And let's go with Arizona's final scoring play, backdoor covering that plus 10.5. Give me the plus 10.5 on Arizona, even though Philly wins the game outright. 26-16 final, under on the points. Hey, Martin's in the chat too. I also see Arizona putting up a lot of points on that Eagles D. I don't know what it is, man. Like that Eagles defense. You talk about championship caliber defenses. The Eagles don't look anything remotely close to that right now, and they might be an early out come playoff time. I don't want to be making predictions too early before we actually know who's playing who, but it's an uncomfortable situation right now for sure. Okay, now let's go to that 4:05 window game. The Pittsburgh Steelers in Seattle taking on a Seahawks team that is dealing with a fairly significant injury on the defensive side, but can see the possibility to clinching a playoff spot. The Seahawks do have a clinch scenario this week. It's a pretty specific one. They have to win, and Green Bay and Minnesota have to tie. So, I mean, that's a pretty unlikely scenario to hit this week. But it's still possible. It could still happen. And if they do tie and Seattle wins their game, then the Seahawks are going to go to the playoffs. But I talked about that injury, and we haven't had to talk about injuries as of yet. There's going to be a few as we head down the list here. No, that's true. We talked about the one in Chicago. So for Seattle, it's linebacker Jordan Brooks, and that is not an insignificant loss on the defensive side. He's dealing with an ankle injury. They didn't say it's high ankle as of yet, but Pete Carroll on record to the media in Seattle saying it's going to be tough to get him back this season. So, or at the very least, tough to get him back this week. So I would expect him to be without Jordan Brooks in this game. I think that's a definite hit to the run defense. It looked like it was going to be time for Kenny Pickett to come back, but the Steelers have announced that it is going to be Mason Rudolph once again this week, which just does not. It, it- there's very little that makes me less happy in football than watching Mason Rudolph play football. Like I'm not a fan of watching that guy play football. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I have this vendetta against him, but oh boy. So this one's actually tough because I really think that Jordan Brooks injury looms large for Seattle. And when you look at them, the defense hasn't been playing the greatest as is lately. The offense hasn't been playing great lately either. I really feel like this is a game that the Steelers could come up and steal defensively, specifically on the defensive side. So I think that actually might be the way that I go with this. I think I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road in Seattle. Yes, tough place to play for sure, but let's take the Steelers to get an upset win here against the Seahawks in Seattle. Let's see. Seahawks are laying -3.5. So obviously, I'm going to take Pittsburgh plus those points, plus the 3.5. Total in the game set at 41.5 points. It's a very beatable number, but again, I think it's the defensive side of the Pittsburgh Steelers that wind up deciding this game. So give me the under on this, under 41.5 points. Let's go like a 20-17. Could be a last second field goal type situation. 20-17 in favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who win and cover, and give me the under on the points. All right, time to do another collection here of quickies in the 1 p.m. window before we get to the two America's Game of the Weeks and then the Sunday night game of Green Bay and Minnesota. Let's see. Martin is in the chat there still. More than 16, though. Martin, I hope you had a good holiday. Yes, I hope you had a good holiday as well, Martin. I really, really hope so. And Half Moon's in the chat there, too. Hey, man. Rudolph looked like Bradshaw last week. Something like that. He definitely looked he definitely looked better than I expected him to. I'll put it that way. But if Kenny Pickett must not be healthy. Because if Kenny Pickett's healthy, I feel like you play Kenny Pickett. So we're going to assume that I guess he's just not ready yet. All right, the New Orleans Saints on the road in Tampa Bay to take on the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Saints having the benefit of the long week, having played on Thursday night, but also on the tail end of back-to-back road games are the New Orleans Saints. It is in Tampa Bay where we find another playoff clinching scenario, which is that the Tampa Bay Bucks can clinch the NFC South this week. They clinch a playoff berth as well as the NFC South division if they win. So win and you clinch the division, or they tie and Atlanta loses. So from earlier in the show, we have Atlanta winning their game in Chicago. So if Tampa Bay does want to win this, or does want to clinch the division this week, they're going to have to win this game outright. I genuinely think they do. They're one of the most impressive teams in football to me over the last month or so. I think the offense is playing very well. The defense playing very good football, super efficient on the defensive side. They're not going to be an easy outcome playoff time. Don't let the record fool you. This Tampa Bay team is playing just about as good as anybody. Mike Evans is on an absolute tear. He's trying to earn himself that free agency money, I get the feeling. But look, he's on a tear. That offense is playing well. The defense is playing well. Give me the Tampa Bay Bucks here at home to get the win over a division rival. New Orleans has every reason in the world to want to win this game. And defensively, I think they've been playing fairly well. I just don't think the offense is going to keep up. So give me the Tampa Bay Bucks to win this game outright. Bucks are laying -3 here as a home favorite against the spread. I feel comfortable laying that. I like them to win. It's a small price to pay. Let's lay the -3. Total in this game set at 42. Now, Tampa Bay has gone over in 4 of their last 5 games, but the Saints have not. They've only gone over in 2 of those games. And given that this is probably a matchup that is a bit more dependent on the defenses than the offenses. Let's go ahead and grab the under in this one. A sneaky under, I think. Under 42 points in New Orleans, Tampa Bay. Give me like a 23-14. I think the Bucks defense makes the plays when they need to, generates the turnovers, and Bucks get the win. 23-14 Tampa Bay, who win and cover the -3. Ooh, Andrew with a prediction in here. Mike Evans goes to Philadelphia in the offseason. That's just not fair. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Mike Evans. Who goes where? Like, who plays the slot? That's crazy. Disgusting. Would be kind of cool to see. I'm not even a Philadelphia fan. I just think that would be kind of cool. But it's going to be so difficult, Andrew, for Mike Evans to go to Philadelphia when he already has gone to Green Bay. I've wanted Mike Evans in Green Bay for like 3 years. Come on. Come to Green Bay, Mike. All right. The San Francisco 49ers on the road travel to Washington, which should be the cure for what ails you. So, like, obviously they got, like, beaten up by the Baltimore Ravens. Like, Baltimore took their lunch money and fed it back to them. Like, that game felt much less competitive even than the final score indicated in that game. But look, the Niners, they're on the short week, so obviously that's tough. Brock Purdy, the stinger situation, he's had multiple stingers this year, so that's definitely something to pay attention to. But look, I think the Niners still have so much that they can play for here, even though I don't necessarily think that they're going to be in a position to clinch the number 1 seed. Because look, they need a win, they need Detroit to lose, and they need Philly to lose. I don't even have Detroit losing on Saturday, much less Philly losing to Arizona. So clinching that number 1 seed, I don't think that happens for San Fran this week. But look, they still obviously want to get the taste of last week out of their mouth. I think they do that by going into Washington, a team that's already mathematically eliminated and playing like absolute dog water on the defensive side. And I think San Fran runs up the score on them here a little bit. Let's take the Niners on the road in Washington to beat the Commanders. Against the spread, the Commanders are taking 13.5 points as a home dog. Crazy high number, usually a number that I would not even consider laying the points on here on the favorite. But look, Washington's covered 1 spread in the last 5 games. Like they are playing some of their worst football on both sides of the ball that they've played all season long. And I just look up against one of the elite teams in the NFC. I got no problem under 2 touchdowns laying the points on San Francisco. So let's lay the -13.5. Total in the game here set at 48.5 points. These two teams are each 4 for their last 5 to the over. So look, that's 8 of the last 10 combined. I feel really good about this game going over. I think this game gets into the high 50s, even though the total's only in the high 40s. So a simple over on this 48.5 point total. Let's go like 36-21, something like that. I figure Washington probably gets some garbage time stuff. They've been pretty proficient at doing that this season. So let's go ahead and grab the over there. 36-21. Niners win. Niners cover -13.5 and give me the over on the points. Let's go to one of the most interesting games of the week to me. The Carolina Panthers traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jags. Here's why this game is so interesting. Jags are in an absolute tailspin. Jags are playing some of their worst football on the season, especially defensively. Their defense can do nothing right now. They can't stop moving the ball. They can't keep points off the board. They can't do anything. Their efficiency is fine, but it's only because those two numbers are equally bad to each other. So their efficiency is okay, but they're giving up a lot. And on the offensive side, Trevor Lawrence has been injured in 3 consecutive games. Like ankles, concussion, and now AC joint in his throwing shoulder. 3 consecutive games, 3 consecutive injuries. When are you going to sit the guy? The guy's your franchise quarterback. He's so much your franchise quarterback, you felt comfortable letting Nathan Rourke walk away to New England for free. And now you're in a situation where you got to start CJ Beathard in a game that you have to win. You probably have to win. That's not a great scenario. I have very little faith in CJ Beathard. I have very little faith in the Jags outright. There's not a lot of reason, obviously, to have faith in the Carolina Panthers, but they almost did the thing last week. And I get that they were at home, but still, they almost did the thing last week. The thing that they shouldn't have done, which is they damn near beat Green Bay and should have had an opportunity to. I'm going to take the Panthers outright. I don't think they're necessarily the better team. And yeah, Jacksonville has stuff to play for. Like they can, in fact, clinch a playoff berth and clinch the AFC South if they win. Indianapolis loses, which I do have happening, and then Houston, which we will talk about here in a couple of games. But I don't think Jacksonville wins this game. Big upset this week, as far as I'm concerned. The Carolina Panthers go into Jacksonville and beat the Jags. So obviously, the Jags laying 7 points at home, that number stinks as well. So let's definitely take the points on that. Even if I didn't like Carolina to win, I would love to take this +7. Total in this game set at 37.5 points. Neither one of these teams scoring a ton of points right now. Let's grab the under on this one, under 37.5. We're going to go like 20-13 in favor of the Panthers. Panthers win. Panthers cover the +7. Give me the under on the points. Half Moon chimes in with a good point. Panthers are winless on the road, I believe. I think that's probably right. Um, Again, like I have no faith in the Jags. No faith in how they've played over the past 5-6 weeks, and the fact that they rushed concussion protocol so that he could clear Trevor Lawrence to play last week, and then he goes out and hurts his AC. Like the guy needs to sit. So I hope they're smart, and I hope they sit him this week. He needs to sit. If they want any, is this not the same team that just a few weeks ago were like, we're not going to risk our franchise quarterback for just one game? What have they been doing the last 3 weeks? He's been hurt in 3 straight games. They've been risking their franchise quarterback for the sake of one game, which, by the way, they've been losing. So that whole franchise, the whole ownership, everything about it makes no sense to me. Panthers upset. All right. I do love when I do my little rants. All right. The Miami Dolphins traveling to Baltimore to take on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, obviously, with the detriment of the short week, having played on Monday, that big win, signature win against the San Francisco 49ers. I think that was 33-19 final. So a comfortable win for them as well. Both of these teams come into this game with playoff clinching scenarios in the AFC. Only one of them is coming in with a real significant injury, and that's the Miami Dolphins, likely to be without Jalen Waddell for the rest of the regular season. He suffered a high ankle sprain. I'm going to lean out on him. I don't think they need him these last 2 games to clinch a playoff spot and go to the playoffs. So, or actually, sorry, they're already clinched. They're already in. So I don't think they need him over these last couple of weeks. I think they sit him, get him healthy for the games that really, really matter at this point. So I don't think you're going to see Jalen Waddell, which is definitely a hit to the Dolphins on the offensive side. Playoff clinching scenarios with these 2 teams are as follows. If the Ravens win or tie, or the Browns lose or tie, they clinch the AFC North division title. Good chance that I think that happens. I do have Cleveland winning, so I don't have them losing or tying, but I do think Baltimore has a good chance at winning this football game. They also clinch the AFC's number 1 seed if they win. Just if they win. If Baltimore wins, they're the 1 seed in the AFC. So I think they have really everything to play for here. Now, the Dolphins, of course, do have their own scenario. They clinch the AFC East with a win or tie, or a Buffalo loss or tie. So obviously, I don't have Buffalo losing this week or tying. So they would want to win that game, obviously, would Miami. I just think it's not an absolute necessity that they win this football game. As far as I'm concerned, for Baltimore, they're going to look at this game as an absolute necessity. So let's take the Ravens here. I think they're the hungrier team. They're at home. Let's take the Ravens to get the win over the Miami Dolphins. Both of these teams have covered 4 of their last 5 against the spread, which makes having to buy the extra half point on the -3.5 at least a little bit interesting. But it's such a bad hedge. Like 3.5 is just such a bad hedge if you like the favorite to win. Let's just lay the 3.5 points and not think about it too much here. This could very well end within a point or two. I think these are two pretty evenly matched football teams, but I think we'll go ahead and lay the 3.5 on Baltimore. Total in the game set at 47 points. I do think this crawls over. I think it gets into the very low 50s. So let's go over 47 points in Baltimore, Miami. Let's go 30-21 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens win, Ravens cover, and give me the over on the points. And the last game we look at before we get to those two 4:45, I believe, window games is the Tennessee Titans traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. Now, Tennessee obviously is already eliminated from the postseason. Houston is not. Houston is still right in the thick of the AFC playoff conversation. And this is one of those games where this is one of the ones that you really smell playing spoiler. The Tennessee Titans, despite the fact that they're eliminated, have been playing better football over the last month or so than they had been prior to that. Like I've on this show multiple times have torn a strip off the Tennessee Titans. But they are playing, statistically anyway, somewhat better football. The Houston Texans are not, and obviously that is injury assisted because they haven't had CJ Stroud. They haven't had Tank Dell. Excuse me. They just got Nico Collins back. So, like, that's been injury assisted for sure. I still haven't seen any update on CJ Stroud about whether or not he will be ready to play this week. I expected that he'd be ready to play last week. If he doesn't play, it's probably Davis Mills. Because I believe Davis Mills came into the game last week and threw a couple of touchdown passes. It's probably Davis Mills. And I don't love a situation where a team is playing at home with Davis Mills at quarterback in 2023, favored by 3.5. Especially when their number one receiver, I believe, is still limited. Like Nico didn't look like totally back to me last week. I think I smell spoilers here. I think I smell an upset. I think I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans on the road in Houston to play spoiler to the Houston Texans. Look, win, lose, or draw for the Texans, this season has been found money because they found their guy at quarterback. They found two guys at wide receiver. Like Nico Collins is him, and Tank Dell, when he comes back, is him as well. So it's found money for them this year. If they can get Dameon Pierce going again next year, look out, because this Houston team could do some damage. But that's next year. This year, they're already playing with house money. I don't think the Texans need to make the playoffs for this to be a successful season for them. They've laid the foundation. I think Tennessee goes into Houston and upsets them this week. And that is basically the death blow, I think, to their playoff chances. So, against the spread, Houston laying the -3.5. I'm going to go ahead and take the +3.5 on the Titans. Andrew makes a good point in the chat. The Texans are a fun team. I love watching the Texans play football this year. Very, very, very fun team. A ton to build on for 2024. So we're going to lay the -3.5, or no, we're going to take the +3.5, sorry, on the Tennessee Titans. Total in this game set at 42.5 points. I think this winds up staying under because I don't think either one of these offenses are on fire lately. I'm going to go like 21-13 in favor of Tennessee. Now, if CJ Stroud does get cleared, I'm still going to stick with the pick this way because we don't know. He's so young. We don't know how he's going to bounce back from being away for a couple of weeks with injury. So I'm still going to keep the pick one way or the other, but I just personally haven't seen an update on CJ Stroud yet. All right, let's look at those two 425 window games, starting with the Los Angeles Chargers in Denver to take on the Broncos. So obviously, battle of the AFC West here. Chargers already eliminated from the postseason. Denver still hanging on here by a thread. They're not mathematically eliminated yet. They're still hanging on. Broncos are going to come into this game likely without one of their top receiving weapons, that being Cortland Sutton. He's dealing with a concussion. So I'm going to stick with what I've been doing all year and lean out on players dealing with concussions. Tough one. Tough one here. Denver has been fairly average lately. The Chargers very much have not been. Like with Easton Stick at quarterback and with the rampant struggles of Austin Eckler, this offense is just not doing anything. They're not moving the ball. They're not scoring points. I think that's going to be enough here to lean and take the Denver Broncos, even though the Broncos offensively have not looked super, super great lately. They're not moving the ball at the level that they should be. The defense kind of middle of the road. I think it's still good enough for Denver to go ahead and pick up this win because, again, they're still fighting for their playoff lives. Who knows, by the time this game kicks off, they may not be anymore. They may be eliminated by that point. I haven't sat down and done all the math on that yet, but I don't like the Chargers' chances. Oh, excuse me. On the line, Denver's laying 5.5 points. It's a fairly decent sized number for a middling team. And originally I was not going to go with this. But then I really sat down and looked at the numbers. I'm like, neither side of the ball is working for the Chargers right now. So under a touchdown, I think I'm going to have to lay that. So we're going to kind of hold our nose a little bit, but lay the -5.5 on Denver. Total in this game is 38.5. And I think this is actually like the best total of the whole week. I think I'm going to stick under on it. It's very, very close. I think this is right around where this game ends. We're going to go under the 38.5. But again, super close. Don't feel bad about it if you go either way on this one. We're going to go like 27-10 in favor of the Broncos. So Broncos win. Broncos cover the -5.5 and give me a very marginal under on those points. The other 425 game is the Cincinnati Bengals in Kansas City, taking on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are, of course, on the short week, having just played on Monday that loss against division rival Las Vegas. They have a clinching scenario as well here against a Bengals team that is playing on the tail end of back-to-back road games. The Kansas City Chiefs clinch a playoff berth as well as the AFC West division title if they win. So win and you're in, win and you clinch. Or if they tie. If they tie, they clinch the division as well. They also clinch the division if both Vegas and Denver lose. So obviously, I don't have Vegas losing in the early window. I have them upsetting Indianapolis. So I don't have that playing out. But if Kansas City wins, they clinch the division. This has to be the team in the most like emotional turmoil, maybe in the whole league, because they know they should be better than what their record is. They know they're better than a 9-6 team. And they just can't seem to get there lately. And it's been kind of tough watching them. You never think that this offense would be among the bottom 5 in offensive efficiency in the NFL over the last month, but that's exactly what the Chiefs are. Bengals, they did not look good last week, did they? Jake Browning, what was it? Three interceptions, maybe 4, like a lot of turnovers. Looked as bad as he's looked since he came on with the injury to Joe Burrow. He did not look good. He looked like he was seeing the proverbial ghosts out there. Like I don't think that we'll necessarily see a repeat of that. And Cincinnati is still technically mathematically alive, but like Kansas City has to snap out of this funk eventually. Like they have to snap out of it eventually. And I don't love the way the Bengals have been playing defensively lately. Half Moon kind of brings it up in the chat there. Cincinnati's defense is bottom 5. They've not been playing well lately. And even though the offense has been moving the ball and putting up points, I'm going to skew on the better defense lately, and that's marginally the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's take Kansas City, especially where they're at home, to pick up the win, finally clinch the playoff berth, finally clinch the AFC West, get the monkey off their back a little bit here. Let's take the Chiefs to pick up this win against the Bengals. Might be a little more difficult for them with the situation with Isaiah Pacheco. Good chance he doesn't play this week. He's also in concussion protocol. Probably means Clyde Edwards-Helaire winds up getting the start because I think they just put Jerick McKinnon on IR as well. So they're losing some offensive pieces, but I just feel like this is the week that Mahomes and Kelsey and somebody in the wide receiver core finally snaps out of this and gets them a win. However, I'm not laying the 7 points. This is a hedge. Hedging my bets and taking +7 on Cincinnati. Even though their defense is not great right now, I can't justifiably lay 7 points on the Kansas City Chiefs team that I've seen over the last month, 5 weeks, whatever. Can't lay 7 points on them. So we're hedging our bets, taking +7 with the Bengals. Total in this game set at 44.5 points. I see both of these teams in the 20s. So I think we're going to have to go ahead and take the over on this one. Over 44.5 points in Kansas City, Cincinnati. Let's go 27-21 in favor of the Chiefs. So Chiefs win, Bengals cover. Give me the over on the points. I don't know why I just did that, but it was fancy. Why not? So am I. All right. The final game of week 17, the Green Bay Packers traveling to Minnesota to take on a Vikings team that is going to be without one of their biggest weapons in the past game, that being TJ Hawkinson. He injured his knee, ACL, MCL. He is out for the season. His status for week 1 of next year at this point would probably be up in the air just because this happened so late in the season. Feel really bad for that guy. He's been one of the best tight ends in football this season. The Green Bay Packers on the tail end of back-to-back road games, having been in Carolina and barely leaving Carolina with a 33-30 win. Minnesota has undeniably been playing some great defense lately. On the defensive side, efficiency is really up there. Their scoring defense has been top 5 over the last month. They've been doing some really good things. On the offensive side, this team is really struggling. Even now with Justin Jefferson back, it still doesn't look normal. You know what I mean? And look, Justin Jefferson played his heart out last week. He wanted that game so bad last week. You just see it in his eyes. Like that Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality. You could see it in Justin Jefferson's face last week. He did everything he could for them to win that game last week. There's one offense between these two teams that I have faith in, and it's the Green Bay Packers. There's one defense in this game that I have faith in, and it's the Minnesota Vikings. Oh my God, get Joe Barry out of there. This is a super interesting matchup, as it should be. A division matchup between the Packers and the Vikings late in the season. It should be a super interesting game. And it winds up that it is, even though like Detroit has kind of been the runaway best team in this division for most of the season. And I'll be the first one to admit that. Like Detroit has built something special there. Vegas doesn't even know where to go with this game. Minnesota's only favored by 1.5 at home. So Vegas doesn't even know where they want to go with this. I tell you the one part of this game that I do feel pretty confident in, and I do feel pretty confident in the game going over. Green Bay's gone over in 5 straight. And that's because the offense has been clicking and the defense has been bad. So I feel really good about this game going over. Minnesota, even with the great defense, has gone over in 2 of their last 5. The number's 46.5. Like, I definitely like the over. Yeah, all right. Moon's right. I'm a homer. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Just screenshot it. Why not? Like, Packers win. Give me Green Bay to beat Minnesota. Keep their playoff hopes alive. It's a pretty good thumbnail. It's not a bad thumbnail. You're right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's a pretty good thumbnail. Let's take Green Bay to get the win. Both of these teams are still technically mathematically alive, but I feel like Green Bay's chances are. I'm trying to remember the percentages, but I feel like even right now, Green Bay sits at like something like 25%. So like 1 in 4, I'll take it. When I think most people thought they'd be like competing for the first overall pick this year. So let's go. If I don't have faith in my team now, when? Right? If not now, when? So go boys, go. Let's take the Packers to win the game. Minnesota obviously laying the -1.5. They've also only covered 1 spread in their last 5, so this doesn't come from nowhere. Give me the +1.5 on Green Bay. And once again, give me the over on the 46.5 point total. Let's go 28-24 in favor of the Green Bay Packers. Packers win, Packers cover, over on the points. And then let's just see where the rest of the playoff picture falls. There you go, folks. Those are my picks for week 17 in the NFL. Obviously, coming right down to the wire here in the postseason conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time on this Wednesday morning to check out the show. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Enjoy the games in week 17. Have a safe and happy new year, and we will see you again for the final week of the NFL season, week number 18. And Super Wildcard Weekend just around the corner. All right, folks, that is it. That is the show for this week. Thank you once again for like 7 of you tuning in on a Wednesday morning. Like that's more than more than I would have expected. Don't you all have jobs? So I thank you very much for taking the time to stop in. I was thinking about like, man, do I rush it? Do I do the show last night? But last night I was absolutely not ready to go. So I'm glad that I was able to do this morning. Now I got to go and get ready for work because I go to work in an hour and a half. So thank you so much for stopping in, watching the show, enjoying the rest of this latter part of this football season. I know there were some picks in there, and like honestly, like I've got home teams performing really poorly this week, something like 4-12 against the spread, which I don't love. I usually like to be more balanced than that. But if I'm not going to go with my gut now, like that's what's gotten me to this point, and it's one of my more successful seasons. So you gotta go with it. So anyway, enjoy the games in week 17, folks. We will see you again for week 18. And have a good day at work, folks. Moon, I hope you're feeling better too, my friend. I hope everything gets cleared up and you're back to work ASAP. See you later, folks.